Gravity in games can be pretty simple. When a character is in the air, standard gravity pulls them down. But what if you could change gravity so the player could walk on any surface? These are early development clips of my retro FPS game Children of Kronos. I grew up in the 90s, and some of my earliest video game memories came from playing Doom, Quake, Dark Forces 2. These games were fast, action-packed, and just fun. I wanted to have Children of Kronos follow that formula with one twist. You could change gravity. I prototyped this concept over a year ago using a surface normals approach where the player detected the direction of the surface below them and then matched that gravity orientation. It worked, but it was really buggy. And as a stay-at-home dad with 2 kids, I had to table it for a while until I rewatched Jasper's video on how Super Mario Galaxy approached gravity. It's a great video if you haven't seen it, but it basically boils down to something called gravity zones. 3D areas that define the player's gravity orientation. When a player enters a 3D area, their gravity and their orientation is changed. This really stuck with me, and I had to rethink my approach. So I tested a simpler version of my gravity mechanic, basically a full rewrite. So the concept of a gravity zone is actually pretty simple. You have a vector for your gravity direction, which for me is the y-axis because I'm using the Godot engine. And when a player enters a gravity zone, you alter that gravity direction so they could fall to, say, the wall instead of the floor. The difficult part is altering the player's orientation so the camera and the player movement match the new gravity. This involves changing what's called the transform basis of the player. Imagine a compass that points in the forward, right, and up direction. Changing the gravity doesn't change where the compass points, so we also need to rotate our compass to match the new gravity, which by itself isn't terrible, but then you have to remember that everything the player can do, from jumping to swimming, crouching, walking up stairs, also has to know the new compass direction. After a lot of math, I got it figured out and started prototyping some different use cases. And I identified 2 different types of gravity changes I wanted for Children of Kronos: immediate and dynamic. An immediate gravity change would occur in one frame, like when the player resets gravity to their default orientation using a gravity belt that they get very early on. Dynamic zones are used for gravity ramps, where a player gradually transitions from one surface to another, or a corridor where the gravity seems to shift from left to right. The setup is actually pretty straightforward. Rather than define a new direction for an entire area, we create a single point in space, and that point acts as a gravity reference. When the player enters the zone, I check the direction from this point to the player's feet. This gives me a relative gravity direction that I can then use to shift the gravity force and the player's orientation. And the cool thing about this is this point can go anywhere, even within the middle of a gravity area. For example, if I place the gravity point in the middle like this, the gravity turns into a full 180 dynamic gravity zone. You can even make a full 360 gravity, which is very 2001 Space Odyssey. I feel really happy with this approach, but it still has plenty of potential bugs. So sometimes the timing is off for players entering or exiting the gravity zone, and then their orientation just is all wrong. Or what happens when the player decides to leave the gravity zone from the side? So I had to establish some ground rules for myself to make it more reliable. Rule number 1, gravity direction always snaps to the nearest cardinal direction when not in a dynamic gravity zone. So I made a function that would snap the transform basis of the player, or the compass, to the nearest cardinal direction. This fixed any rounding or timing errors when leaving ramps, or if you just spammed gravity changes. For example, if the player leaves a zone early, you just snap back to the original gravity. If they leave late, then you snap back to the new gravity. Rule number 2, only use gravity zones for transitions, not entire rooms or floors. Now this is 100% going to create some level design complications later on, because I'm basically giving a lot of control to the player regarding their gravity orientation. But I do like that players could find weird or buggy orientations to speed run levels, or find really creative ways to get through hidden areas. To keep players from getting stuck, I have my final rule. Rule number 3, players can reset gravity to the global default when not in a zone. So I added a reset mechanic so players could reorient themselves. A gravity safety valve, if you will. But I also realized this means that players could creatively use the reset in other ways, which honestly I'm all for. I want to give players the ability to think creatively. After I created some prototypes for the different gravity zones, I wanted to make the creation of the zones as painless as possible during level design. I love the Godot engine, the engine I'm using, but its level design tools are lacking. It's why I'm using the classic Quake level editor Trenchbroom in combination with the Funk Godot plugin to design all of my levels. After setting up a custom entity for each gravity zone type, I can add a gravity zone by just placing a brush, assigning it to my gravity zone class in Trenchbroom, and setting the gravity direction. And for dynamic zones, the marker position just auto-calculates based on the information I provide unless I want to overwrite it in the engine. And I can basically add gravity zones in seconds and test them right away. Now, one quick issue I had people mention on social media was how would players know what their current gravity orientation was? So I prototyped a 3D compass that shows the default y-axis gravity. As a player rotates or changes gravity, the compass mirrors their orientation. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the design yet, so if you guys have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. At this point, gravity shifting works pretty well, but there are still some questions to answer, like how do enemies react to gravity changes? Can they follow you up walls? Where do grenades fall if the player is in a different gravity? I'll keep tackling these scenarios as they move forward, and I'd also would love to hear your input on all of this stuff. I plan to release a new devlog every month, so follow the channel for those. Children of Kronos is on Steam, so you can wishlist it. Check that out in the description. I really, really appreciate it. And as of today, you can join the new Children of Kronos Discord channel to follow along and receive even more updates and chances for playtesting going forward. I'm really excited to show you what I've been working on and what I have planned. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd absolutely love to hear your feedback. And thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.